Oh, okay lads. Well, welcome back to the Formula 1 Highlights 2025. Lads, I'm very hungover from Christmas still. Yeah, it's been mental. But anyway, let's continue on, shall we? So lads, we've got the last 3 rounds we're covering. And so, if you're wondering, as you know, every Monday we're bringing out Formula 1 news, Formula 1 whatever. And the last 3 Mondays, we're breaking down the highlights of 2025. So, 3 weeks ago, or is it, well, what is it now? It's 4 weeks ago. We had rounds 1 to 7. The second week, we've had 8 to, 16? Heavy maths now. And then 16 up to whatever. And then we've got the last 3 now today. So, the last 3. And guys, this is where it got very, very juicy in the year. And we're back in Vegas. Now, Vegas maybe is a liar. It looks glamorous, looks great, it looks clean, controlled, all the big brights neon lights, the stratosphere, even almost blinding the drivers. Straight roads, shiny branding, billion-dollar spectacle. Billions invested in the Vegas Grand Prix. But Formula 1 doesn't care about that. It started to expose things, and this race didn't just test pace, it tested legitimacy. And that was the great thing, because what Las Vegas gave us wasn't a normal Grand Prix. This was dramatic from end to finish, or start to finish, lads. It was the night where the championship stopped about being speed and started about being regulations, millimeters, and consequences. Now, okay, in theory, Verstappen crossed the line first, Norris crossed the line second. And I think maybe you all know where we're going with this one. And yet neither of those facts mattered. Didn't matter. Because the story of Vegas isn't who won on the road. It's who survived after the race was over.
Walsh running the Irish green, and look at the move he's making down to the inside.
Moves to the front. What a move from 5th all the way to the lead in lap 1.
Walsh takes win number 2.
Peter. Walsh. Now, coming into Vegas, Norris was the leader of the championship at this stage. McLaren, they were getting the momentum. It was looking bloody good. We were all hoping, of course, for Verstappen to make some form of a comeback. But McLaren, confident, controlled at this stage, keeping the pace, dictating the pace really, even though Verstappen was on a bit of a charge at this stage. But pole position reinforced that feeling. The optics were perfect. Championship leader on pole, street circuit, clean launch expected. But the conflict arrived immediately at turn 1. And Norris runs wide. Verstappen doesn't hesitate, slices through, takes control, and never gives it back. Now, from that moment on, it wasn't a race. It was damage limitation for Norris and control mode for Verstappen. And here's where the real conflict begins, I think. Because while Verstappen is managing tyres and pace, McLaren are unknowingly managing risk and losing. Okay, look, Vegas, it ain't a Monaco. Now, I'm not saying Monaco's better. I'm not saying it's worse. It's a completely different beast. And it's not about precision walls, or rhythm. It's heavy braking, extremely long straights, flat out aero load, which, the balance to try and get at Vegas is very, very tricky, because you have to get down those long straights. So you have to reduce the aerodynamic grip and package you have on the car, and you have to rely on the mechanical grip. Extremely important. But the problem is that you could suffer like crazy in the slower parts where you need the mechanical grip, and all of a sudden then you're shot down the long straights. So, it is, guys. It's a bit of a test. It's cool to go to these type of tracks because it's like an art form. There is a line that you're going to have to either commit to one, the long straights, and then you're going to have to sacrifice yourself in the slow corners. And you just got to work it all out very, very quickly. And it matters because Formula 1 cars don't just race each other. Like, they're racing the technical regulations. Now, when we say this, we're on about massive skid block stress. Now, we'll get into that in just a second. But McLaren have been aggressive all season here. Right height trimmed. That's the underneath of the car. The measurement space between the concrete floor to the bottom of the floor of the Formula 1 car. That's the right height. The distance between that, okay? And McLaren, you know, getting the right height sorted, floor performance trimmed to, well, really good precision, and margins tight but legal. And then Vegas, with its bumps and compressions, punishes that philosophy. Now, I could be very, very easy on them, but nobody knew it yet. Now, Norris, Piastri, not even McLaren, the clock was ticking quietly. Now, look, I'm giving the two McLaren lads and the McLaren team a lot of rope on this one. Now, lads, here we go, and this isn't playing really Mr. Skeptical here. This is playing, let's all of us wake up and smell the coffee here, because every Formula 1 team, every Formula Ford team knows about trying to keep the right height in check, wear and tear on the car. They've got all this clocked before any lap they have. They've got sensors everywhere. Now, you could say if Norris had a problem, right? Let's say Norris hit a big, massive bump on the road, right? And something happened underneath the car, okay? And he went over it and it caused so much friction that he scraped off a lot of the car, right? Let's just say he did. Okay, but now we're still talking about the entire floor of the car. But all right, let's go with this one. Now you've been saying, okay, now, but what now? And let's say Piastri, perfectly legal, walks free, everything's legal, legit. But Norris had the problem. Now you'd be saying, okay, whoa, what the hell happened in Norris's car? Or maybe something happened with the suspension on the car, okay? Where, in other words, the bump and ride height, let's not get too technical, but the bump and ride height was affected and the car sunk down lower because it hit some bad bump, suspension came a bit loose, and then it went under the limit, all right? Again, we're given the benefit of the doubt here. If that happened to just one of the cars, now you'd be saying, all right, well, okay, Norris went over the bumps, but now Piastri didn't, lads. He didn't go over the bumps. So that's why, okay, that explains it. Fair enough. But two of the cars? That causes a lot of questions, lads. Now, look, every team in the world, whether you're in karting all the way up to Formula 1, you're always trying to push the limit anyway. But there's still limits. We had both McLarens disqualified. Gone. Not penalties, not warnings, disqualification. And quite rightly so, lads. Look, the rules are there. If you go under the rules, it's your job to make sure you're above the rules. You're over the rules. You're in the legal limit here. And the rear skid wear is below minimum thickness. Illegal. There's no question, there's no debate. In one decision, Norris loses the podium, Piastri loses valuable points as well, Verstappen gains a massive 25-point swing in his favour. I mean, this just blows the door wide open at this stage. Vegas doesn't just swing the championship, it reopens it kind of violently, like I gotta admit. And what looked like control becomes fragility. What looked like inevitability becomes now doubt. And this is the loudest possible reminder in Formula 1, lads. You don't win championships on vibes. You have to, a lot of the time, you win them on compliance. Now, when the dust settles, the standings don't just change numerically, they change emotionally. And Verstappen walks out of Vegas with momentum in his favour. Now, lads, authority reasserted to a degree. Pressure shifted back onto McLaren now. Norris walks out with the lead still intact, but the illusion getting shattered, and because now he knows everything matters now. Every point, every pit stop is now at risk. Every race can be taken away after the flag. Like, nothing is guaranteed here. Las Vegas doesn't crown anyone. as we know, but it does something far more important. It reminds everyone, including the championship leader, that the fight ain't over. And from here on in, every race now is survival. But for Verstappen, this is, oh dear Lord, momentum is going with me. Then we get to the second last race, Qatar. Great track, lads. It's such a nice momentum, fluid, high-speed track. Qatar doesn't care really in a way how fast you are. It doesn't care about the confidence, momentum, or the headlines. And that's the lovely thing. It ain't emotional. It's not dramatical. It's just clinical. And that's for every track, of course, but especially in these type of scenarios now where all three drivers with their scenario. This is a circuit that strips racing back to one brutal truth. Who can execute when the rules choke the race now? Because Qatar wasn't a classic wheel-to-wheel thriller. No, it was a control burn. And whoever understood the numbers best would walk out really the best. And that person was Maxi Boy in the Red Bull. And coming into Qatar, the championship picture was starting to get a lot more simpler here, you know, and kind of terrifying, especially for McLaren fans and the team itself. Norris still leading, Verstappen very close now, Piastri lurking, but Qatar introduced a new variable, forced strategy. Mandatory pit stops, maximum stint lengths, early safety car risk. This isn't about improvisation, it's about anticipation, and McLaren, they guess wrong. Now, Qatar is deceptive to a degree. Flat, flowing, smooth, but underneath that surface is tire murder. High-speed corners, constant lateral load, no rest. That's what's very cool. And that's why F1 introduced the mandatory two-stop. You know, maximum stint length, aggressive policing, meaning you can't stretch anything, you can't gamble late, you must commit early and live with it. Red Bull understand this. McLaren tried to bend it, let's be honest, and that's the difference. Now at the start we saw Verstappen launching cleanly. Norris slots in, Piastri shows pace, then the safety car hits. This is the pivot. Everyone pits except McLaren hesitate. Now look, sometimes that hesitation can cause you risk or reward, right? You know, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. Sometimes, I mean, it's always depending, but they stay out, they delay, they try to outthink the race, really. I think that's what happened. On paper, it looks clever. In reality, it boxes them in, because once the mandatory stints lock in, their flexibility dies, and Verstappen, he commits immediately, cleanly, ruthlessly. From that moment, the race isn't fought on track, it's fought on the timing screens, and the final phase is kind of brutally calm. Verstappen controls the pace, no sliding, no panic, just quite good precision, you know, and behind him, Piastri drives one of his most mature races of the season, you gotta admit. Norris is stuck, not slow, just boxed in, and when the final stops cycle through, the reality hits. Verstappen won, Piastri in second, and Norris only fourth. No controversies, no penalties, no appeals, just consequences, and the championship gap collapses to 12 points. I mean, suddenly Abu Dhabi isn't ceremonial, it's decisive. I mean, this was a major excitement for obviously all of us at this stage, lads, wasn't it? Let's be honest here. Qatar doesn't humiliate Norris, it doesn't embarrass McLaren. What it does is kind of far worse. It proves that Verstappen can win without chaos, without mistakes, without aggression, just simple discipline. Sometimes that's all we need in life, right? And for Norris, this race delivers a brutal message. You don't need to lose control. Am I making sense? All Verstappen needed was one race where the rules were tight, the margins were fixed, and execution mattered more than flair. Qatar doesn't flip the championship. I guess it compresses it. And now there's nowhere left to hide. And then we get to the grand finale. Abu Dhabi, baby. Marina, Yas Marina track is deceptive, yes. Bright lights, perfect tarmac, calm surroundings. It looks like a celebration circuit, right? But on championship night, it becomes something else entirely. A place where the noise disappears and only breathing space matters now. Because Abu Dhabi isn't about winning the race, it's about not braking. And that's really, for the whole scenario for all three drivers, that was the interesting thing I thought about it, lads. Now look, maybe you might think I'm wrong or a bit all over the place on that one. Because yes, Verstappen had the situation where it was all gloves off. He had to win, but at the same time, he did, yes, take off at the start, but one bad pit stop and it was all over. It was all over. You know, I mean, he didn't need a miracle because, look, Norris, all he needed to do was finish fourth. But he needed just everything to go perfect. You know, and it was the same for the both McLarens. So that's what I mean about not braking. So the maths before the lights go out, Lando Norris doesn't need to win. He doesn't even need to finish second. He just needs to finish on the podium. It sounds very simple, right? Now, it is still a nice little cushion because all you have, you're not going for just one position. You're going for 3 positions to win. He hopes Norris falters. And between them, quietly dangerous Oscar Piastri. He's the tension here as well. Gotta admit, not speed versus speed, but risk versus, I think, really restraint. And Yas Marina, it can really punish impatience. And guys, I'd even say it. A track isn't a human being. It doesn't have emotion. But it feeds on your emotion. You know, that's the lovely and honestly, a very romantic thing about a racetrack. In a way, a track reads you. It exposes your emotion. It lets it all out. It challenges you. It can deflate you. It can give you an all epic meltdown. It can get you to rise to the occasion. It's beautiful, man. It's like a slow dance with a beautiful man or a beautiful woman, right? Whatever, whether you're a man or woman. Long straights into slow corners, heavy braking, clean exits. It's a circuit that tempts you to force outcomes and then punishes you for it. And that's exactly why Norris's mindset matters more than his lap time. This is no longer about racing Verstappen now. It's not. That in a way, that's done. It's about racing the moment. And from the start, it is uncomfortable. Piastri makes a bold move, drops to third, and then suddenly Leclerc is sniffing. Tsunoda gets involved. Traffic builds, and this is where the championships die because every wheel-to-wheel moment whispers, just push a little harder. But Norris doesn't now. I've got to hand it to him here. He doesn't retaliate emotionally. He doesn't chase lap time. He doesn't over-defend. He actually, in a way, he absorbs it, and I gotta hand it to him because look, lads, and he did this lap by lap. Even I thought that this guy, if you put him in a heavy pressurized situation, the guy's gonna crumble. I really, honestly, I did think that was gonna happen, and the guy bloody showed up on the day, man. So I gotta admit, man, hats off for what he had to go through to this race. And up front, Verstappen does exactly what he must, right? He wins, clean, unquestioned. Piastri follows him home. But the real climax is quieter. It's Norris holding P3 while Leclerc closes. Russell looms, tyres degrade, radio stays quite calm. There's no heroics. There's no desperation. There's no mistakes. When the checkered flag falls, the truth lands instantly. Verstappen wins the race. Piastri second. Norris finishes third. And that's enough. And that was it, ladies and gentlemen. Lando Norris goes on to win the World Championship. Abu Dhabi didn't crown Norris with fireworks per se. It crowns him with survival, and it really was, lads. You know, across the final 3 races, Las Vegas tested chaos, Qatar tested calculation, Abu Dhabi tested composure, and Norris passed the hardest test of all, staying boring when the world wanted drama. Now, obviously, there was a couple of dramatic moments with Tsunoda and a couple of other things and Leclerc getting close. But 2 points, it's all separated the top 2. It wasn't dominance. It was not, there was a bit of luck involved for everybody, really. but it was about just staying composed, staying in control. This isn't the loudest championship win, it's the most grown-up one. And I think that's why it matters, lads. And before we sign off for the day and wrap it all up, it's maybe sound corny, but this was not the greatest F1 season I've ever seen. 2021 was, I thought, the most dramatic season ever, when we had, as at Yas Marina, we had the Abu Dhabi showdown between Verstappen, and last lap Verstappen takes the lead and wins the championship versus Hamilton. And of course there was so much drama and controversy all throughout the year anyway. But this year really truly was, well, actually, sorry guys, we're actually in 2026 now, so we'll say last year, 2025, what really was something that I honestly think we could all learn from this, or even if, and I think I said this in episode 1 here, and I'm going to repeat it again. I remember Russell Crowe was at the Oscars, and he said, and he wins the Oscar for Gladiator, and he's up on the stage and he says, guys, when you're on the downside of advantage, anything's possible. And it was a very heartwarming speech. In other words, don't give up. I mean, sometimes all of us need, touch wood for all of us, that one lucky throw of the dice. One lucky throw of the dice. Now, this would be definitely highlighted and more confirmed and stamped if Verstappen went on to win the championship now this year, or in 2025, because that would have been the greatest comeback in history. But it just goes to show, Verstappen's looking good, bang, gone, all over. And then all you needed was 1 or 2 races where Piastri and Norris had a bad throw of the dice, and everything changes. Momentum goes in your favour. And sometimes, lads, when I've got bad times, I've got to remind myself of these type of things as well. You know what I mean? So I don't know, maybe I am trying to convince myself or trying to remind myself doing this podcast. But I honestly think it is at the same time. That's all we need. The one lucky throw of the dice. And maybe we do underestimate a lot of people. And I'll put my hands in the air, lads, and I will say I underestimated Lando Norris. Because when the pressure was finally down on top of him, the guy showed up. The guy bloody showed up. And in fact, if you've been listening to some of my other podcasts throughout the year, last year, is that even I was talking about Piastri this year, that the guy has been an assassin. I've been saying it all year. Now, I still did leave a little room open that, look, he's looking really good, and I honestly backed him that when the pressure's really on Piastri, I think this guy will rise to the occasion and he'll get over the line. I was very, very confident on that. Extremely confident on that. I still just did leave a tiny little door open that you never know. And look, I was unbelievably wrong about Lando Norris. My apologies to any of the McLaren fans. My hands are in the air. Absolutely 100% wrong. And it just goes to show, the guy sometimes a girl you can write off in the world, and then they show up on the day for you. Because Lando Norris, he was under immense pressure. And even with a lot of these races, and I know what this pressure is like, lads, when I used to race in karting and cars as well, when the championships are on the line, where there was sometimes where I had a comfortable lead in the championship. And then all of a sudden you have a couple of bad races, you start to feel the pressure. It doesn't mean that you're going to crumble or rise, but you do start to feel pressure. And the guy was taking shrapnel all year around, let's be honest. Even for me, I was like, nah, this guy, I was riding Norris off. I was toast. He's done. All over. So maybe there is a thing, maybe you're a boss at work and you underestimate somebody. Like, you never thought that John the chef would actually, and I don't know chefing, but maybe he's not the head chef, but actually John seems like a relaxed guy, and maybe he doesn't look like the guy that could take on the head chef role and take on all the pressure. And maybe it's because we have an image of somebody and we just can't see them in it. Maybe we all paint people in an image of a certain way, and then until the time comes, just like Lando Norris here. Like, guys, maybe people who are watching or listening, maybe you guys had all the confidence in the world to him, and maybe it's just me. But I mean, there was a lot of people writing him off, let's be honest. But maybe we need to open our eyes more, Maybe we need to look at the guy that you underestimate. Maybe the guy that's maybe the person for the job is the person that you'd never think. Maybe it's the last guy on the list that you'd make out. So I don't know. Maybe you do make a list of being at a work and, okay, who do I decide for this job? You write out your list and you've got your first couple, yeah, they're the favourites. But maybe it is genuinely the last guy on that list. Maybe it's something to keep an eye out for all of us in any type of scenario, Anyway, guys, listen, I love you all. We're going to leave it here today. And what an unbelievable 2025 season. And guys, we're in January now of 2026. And wow, we're only 2 months away. It's going to be fantastic. And what are we? We're about in fact, let me just give you the dates, lads, because I've got the schedule here in front of me. So for this year, testing is the 11th and 13th of February. And when we're recording this, lads, it's actually the 3rd of January. So, wow. We're 6 weeks away. That's nothing. That's just going to fly, lads. And then obviously Australia is the first round of the season, and that's the 6th and the 8th of March. So we've got 2 testing coming up, 11th to the 13th of February, and then the following week, the 18th to the 20th of February, and then Australia the 6th of March. But we're going to keep going anyway. And in the next couple of weeks, I'm really looking forward to this. We're going to do a breakdown of how good or how bad Verstappen, Hamilton, Piastri, and Norris are. Now, why am I picking those 4? Because I think they're the top 4 at the moment. Now, I still rate Alonso the best out in the paddock. He just doesn't have the equipment. If you disagree, not a problem, lads. Totally respect your opinions. But we're going to do a breakdown of these guys, and obviously any news that's coming up, we're going to get into all that as well. Any exciting updates. So a lot to look forward to now, lads, before the start of the year. God, and we're only 6 weeks away, huh? Anyway, lads, I love you all. Thanks for tuning in today, listening or watching. Talk to you later.
Walsh running the Irish green, and look at the move he's making down to the inside.
Moves to the front. What a move from 5th all the way to the lead in lap 1.
Walsh takes win number 2.
Peter. Walsh.